No one else can develop you but you. Whenever we have a larger goal, we have a series of micro goals that feed into the larger goal. And that's important to know because if you lose sight of the micro goals, it is very difficult to obtain the larger goal. Your affirmations are going to tell you where you want your mind to rest through the day. It is going to be the thing that you come back to today. Welcome to the Lemonade Podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. I am so excited about today's topic because it's an ageless question, right? More so of a statement. Today's topic is what we have attracts what you need. Why is this such a complicated concept? Well, part of the reason is that through social media, through advertisement and marketing, we're constantly reminded of what we don't have, right? That is their jobs, to create FOMO, to create interest and influence and desire. And they do a fantastic job of that. So much so, we start to operate our daily lives through the lens of what we don't have rather than what we do have. And when we do that, we tend to squander what we do have because we're so busy chasing what we don't have. We're chasing that special car, that house, that degree, that class, that group of friends, that relationship, that vacation. We see all the shiny things on social media. We hear about other people's vacations and the things that they do. So we end up building a high level of FOMO when we should be really looking at what we have and try to figure out how to leverage what we have. Because when we do that, it opens up the door for more, or what we call abundance. So our last podcast episode, we actually talked about the power of checking in, why it's so important, why we need to take inventory of what we have inside us before we start operating within our greater communities, simply because we may be doing ourselves a disservice. We may be doing ourselves harm. Being able to check in with ourselves help establish great and healthy patterns, right? We can figure out what we're doing great and what's still under development. So we established and talked through that during our last episode. But why that is the foundation for this conversation is because when we start doing those check-ins, those mental check-ins, we can not only assess how we feel, but we can also start assessing our, what some call blessings. We can start taking inventory of the resources that are within our disposal. Just even simple things like your health and your well-being, maybe the degree that you have, maybe the parents you have, maybe the isolated friend that seems to support you, whatever crazy idea that you come up with, that is still a resource. So when we take inventory of those resources, blessings, what we have, now we're leaning into what we call gratitude. And gratitude is extremely important because, again, it gives us a great opportunity to lean into what we have and take a look at it again and figure out how to maximize what I already have to leverage to get you to abundance. So all of that sounds pretty big, and it's like, how do I achieve that? How do I get to that point where I'm able to be grateful even in difficult situations? Very important. I'm here to break down that process, at least one way to approach the process of gratitude. So what I'd like you to do, just like the last episode, I want you to get something to write with. I want you to get paper, get your tablet or something that you can at least document this conversation with, because we're going to get to the heart of you. And these are some of the exercises that I do even in my coaching practice. So one of the resources we obviously have our journals. We have one that we advocate for. One of my personal babies one that I love. It is a tremendous resource. But even if you don't have that, I don't want you to wait not another day, not another minute before you start leaning into what we call gratitude and acknowledgement of what you have. Because again, our philosophy is what you have is more powerful than what you don't have. What you have is more powerful than what you don't have. So I want you to pause this video if you need to. Go grab something to write with, grab a tablet, something that you can take down some notes. And I want you to do a coaching exercise with me at this moment. So push pause, go get something to drink, some water, juice, lemonade, whatever. Come back with your pen and your paper, and we're going to start this exercise. Okay, I'll give you a second. Okay, now that you have your documentation resource, pen, paper, tablet, whatever, I want you to write 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things that you are grateful for today. They could be as big as maybe this time last year you were ill and you're not anymore, or you're in better health. Maybe 6 months ago you were unemployed and now you have a job, and you might not be that thrilled about it, but at least you have the job. Maybe you're just grateful that your outfit worked out today, that the clothes you wore fit the activity that you were doing for today, and you felt very confident in it. You thought you looked pretty good. All right, let's be grateful for even that. Maybe you're just grateful that the weather's nice outside. Maybe you're grateful that the dog next door isn't barking. Whatever 3 things that you're grateful for, I want you to write those down. And the reason being is that for those 3 things that you write down, there is another set of 3 things that are exact opposite of those things. Maybe you're in the hospital this year and you weren't last year. That's the polar opposite, right? Of whatever you're grateful for, there's an opposite reality to that. If you wake up tomorrow and you wake up late and you throw some clothes on and clothes energize you, and you realize on your way to work, like, oh my God, this is horrible. These clothes don't fit. They're not a match. I don't know what I was thinking. I promised myself I was going to donate this skirt, this shirt, and here I am wearing it again, right? Maybe the dog is barking even as we speak. For all the things that you're grateful for, there is an opposite reality. And we don't want that to change, but it could change. And if we think about what life would be like at this moment, if you did not have those 3 elements of gratitude, you may not even be here. You may not have found the energy, the time to even pour into yourself by plugging into this podcast. So when you come here, there's something in you that says, I want to be filled. I want somebody to pour into me. I want something positive. I want to grow. I want more. And maybe I need more, right? It's okay to say I need more and be very specific about what more looks like to you or what more is. That's so very important. So when you look at the 3 things that you're grateful for and how life could be different, now we seem to find that gratitude inside to say, things aren't as bad as I think they are. Or maybe these 3 things are something that I can build on. And so now we take those three elements of gratitude, and we start plugging those things into our goals and in the vision for our lives, no matter how big or small that is. Maybe your goal for the day is to go to bed at a decent time. Why? So you're not exhausted in the morning. So whatever your micro goal, that's what we call micro goals. If it's a goal that you can realistically, obtain within, a few short hours, that's what we call micro goals, right? It's small, a consistent behavior that you can achieve, that hopefully plays into a larger goal, right? Because let's use the example of you being able to get some sleep. You're able to get up early in the morning. You're able to have a productive day. You feel better. You're thinking. You're sharper, right? All of those things kind of play into themselves. Whenever we have a larger goal, we have a series of micro goals that feed into the larger goal. And that's important to know, because if you lose sight of the micro goals, it is very difficult to obtain the larger goal. If the goal is a marathon, you at least got to start running a couple blocks. You at least got to take a couple steps to do that, right? Runners are very good at setting a pace for incremental success. That's the whole theory behind Kaizen. It's a Japanese phrase that stands for slow but steady, consistent improvement will have lasting change, right? And that 1% improvement is the title of the journal, because we believe in those micro goals. So when we talk about gratitude is really beginning to look at what's within your grasp. What do I already have? If I can take what I already have, those 3 gratitudes that you shared down on your paper, if you can couple those things together and you have a vision, you can move the needle 1% today to get you closer to that. And all of these changes happen just via your mindset, right? If I see that I have something going for me and I sew those things together, the idea of coupling those pieces of gratitude, those blessings, as many of us call them, when I couple my blessings together, I have something stronger than just these isolated random things. Because when we have FOMO and we're focusing on what we don't have, all of the pieces of gratitude seem random, disconnected, meaningless. We can't build anything from that. Surely you can, but the difference in being able to leverage your gratitude is your mindset and how we value that. And so that's where your affirmations come in. So today, affirmations is a positive statement that presumably moves you closer to a goal, to positivity in your mindset and in your activity, the things that you do. And so affirmations are very important. Why? Because for every affirmation, there are at least a dozen of negative things that could take you in the opposite direction. So let's use this as an example. If our affirmation today is to get you to find ways to leverage the gratitude you have, sew them together, and to move forward, we would in essence be talking about our title for today. Our affirmation today is what you have is strong enough to get you what you need. It's a belief system that we're trying to convey in our affirmations that causes us to go back and reassess our gratitude, no matter how small or large. That's irrelevant. Size doesn't matter when it comes to gratitude. Size does not matter. Because gratitude is either you are or you're not. You can't ride the fence, folks, when it comes to gratitude. You either are grateful for something or you're not. So when you couple the things that you're grateful for, that in essence is looking, managing, and valuing what you have. This is so necessary in getting what you need, because most of us have to take the things that we have and convince someone else we have it. If I tell you I'm a great coach, I've got to go and get my evidence, find gratitude in the people I coach, the resources I have, my gift for gab, and I have to take and pull all those things together to present to you a finished package called a podcast. That's how I get what I need, by coupling up those seemingly random things and leveraging it and selling that out to someone else, that I am who I say I am. I can do what I say I do. It's the very thing that you do when you go on a job interview. You take that resume and those things that you say you have, and you're pitching it to someone else to help them believe that you can do the things that you say you can do, and you can do the things that they say that they need. But you have resumes that are out there, and people have a tremendous amount of experience. But if you don't love what you've been through, you can't sell it to anyone. Let me say that again. If you don't love what you've been through, you can't sell it to anyone. And this is again about being grateful, having that gratitude, because if I'm walking into, we're going to use the job scenario. If I'm walking into an interview and I'm still mad at my former employer, and I'm mad at how much they paid me, I'm mad at the people who I used to work with, I can't be grateful because I'm still bitter. And it's impairing my ability to tell my own story. I can't tell my story as a victor, as somebody who's successful, as a champion, what I learned, what I conquered as a result of it. I can't tell that story because I'm too busy being bitter about what happened, because I still haven't learned the lessons, I haven't found the opportunity, and I haven't completely grown, forgiven, come to terms, found peace with what I've been through. When you can do that, now you become grateful, because gratitude will help you close the door in many instances on where you've been, and you never have to go there again in the same way because of everything that you've learned. Because this is what it means to get wiser. When you get wiser, you learn the lesson from the situation. So when I see it again, and you're always going to see it again. That's why I even tell clients, I even tell my kids, if you run into a personality of someone who's selfish in your circle, get ready. If that you move on and you don't see that person again, I promise you, we're going to call that person Tina. I don't know anybody in my immediate circle named Tina. And if I do, I'm not talking about you. I just pulled a random name. But if you saw Tina once, you're going to see Tina again. And the next time you see Tina, the name might change. Tina might be Teresa. It might be Tom. It might be Trey, right? You're going to see these personalities again in your life. And if you don't learn how to deal with Tina, you're not going to know how to deal with Trey. Even if you are out of that arena, you still have to learn the lesson from that. If we physically move on, but we're still emotionally tied to the past, you cannot find the gratitude in the moment, right? And some things are more difficult to go through. Some things are traumatic, and that's where we pull in a great therapist to help us through trauma. so that we can learn what we needed to learn, and so that we can let go of what we need to let go so we can move on. Now, when we do this, and I can leverage the lessons, when I can find the power in me to be able to survive what I survived, when it pulled something interesting out of me in terms of creativity, tenacity, agility, spirituality, all of those are positive residuals from situations we've been through. And this is how we find our gratitude even through the darkest moments. But it doesn't have to be the darkest moments. It just might simply be, I am happy for the little things. When I can find joy in the little things, I'm going to attract bigger things because I can see it better. My senses are more keen. I can lean into things and see the detail. When I can see the detail, I can find the opportunity in the cracks. Why? Because I can see the things that maybe a few of my colleagues cannot. Maybe I can see the things that my kids cannot because I can see the detail, because I pay attention to the small things and the large things. So when we talk about the things that we need and finding gratitude, it is very, very important. Even if your situation looks bleak, we have more than so many other people. But this is not truly about things. It's really about a state of mind and how you're going to choose to live your life. I can find awareness. I can understand what's happening within me. And I can also find joy that I'm in charge of. I'm in charge. When I can find anything to be grateful for, I'm going to hold that thing in high regard. And I'm going to celebrate the fact that I have that. And if I can have that, I can have this next thing. And I can attract it. And it seems to be that those things find you when you show up authentically with gratitude and an affirmation of what your life or what you want your life to be. Now, I know that sounds very big, and we need a repeatable process on how we do this, right? So now we get back to our journal. So our journal usually comes with, and if you could see it here, right under we do our check-ins like we talked about at our last session. But right under our check-ins, and sometimes you might not like what your check-in says. That's real talk. But I don't want you to always like what your check-in says. What I want you to do is want those things to be better, right? So even as you want those things to be better, let's make better the goal. Not perfect, because perfect is the enemy of progress, right? Of completion. What we want is right after we come out of our check-in, maybe we're feeling great, maybe we're not, we come out with an affirmation, because our affirmations are our compass, our due north to be able to move forward, also known as your GPS, right? Your affirmations are going to tell you where you want your mind to rest through the day. It is going to be the thing that you come back to today. If you tell yourself, look, I'm not getting in an argument with anybody. I want to hold my peace. I want to focus on positive things. That becomes your affirmation for the day. Maybe your affirmation is simple as, you know what? I want to make sure that I drink 8 glasses of water. All of those things are going to be good for you, because not just because physically of what water does, and water, obviously, life, you can't live without it. But the more you can focus on your well-being, the better off you're going to be. But we need to do these things before we leave the house. So we can have check-ins through the day, and we know, okay, my GPS says I'm not having any arguments today. I'm not leaning into arguments. I'm not staying for arguments. I am going to protect my peace. If protecting your peace is what your goal is for the day, everything that you do for the day should embody that. And you know what seems to happen? You seem to put yourself in situations that are more peaceful than not. Because you were so intentional and locked in on it, you not only look for peaceful situations, but you also were very attentive to the things that didn't look peaceful to you. You did not lean into conflict. You did not lean into harsh words. And that is what we call discipline. The discipline. And this is the control we have over ourselves. When we have gratitude, a positive affirmation, which is your due north. This is where I'm going today. I'm protecting my peace, right? And you have the discipline. You're literally mentally moving away from one thought process and moving into another. So if I mentally change my destination to positivity, what do you think you're going to find on the road to positivity? Other positive people, positive music, positive programming, just positive, right? And it may not all happen at once, but you're very likely going to find more positivity on your new path than that path that's willing to cuss everybody and anything out that gets in your way, right? Those are things that deplete you. And you're going to find people on that path who also like to cuss and who also like to argue and who also like chaos, right? Some people are comfortable in chaos while others are not. But if you make that decision within yourself, you put yourself on a different path that leans more towards the peace that you're looking for. And these are mental and personal decisions that you can make. The path you want to be on, get on that path and be dedicated to it one day at a time, because you're going to find other people who are dedicated to the same. Now, there are people, we weren't raised in a vacuum, so you're going to find people who know the Nikki who likes to argue with the Tina, right? People may know your cadence and your past habits of what you used to do, right? What you used to be, the way you used to talk. But when we have gratitude, affirmations, a new pivot point, we're going to manage this, right? We're going to manage what we have. And we're going to put ourselves on a path with people that are more in alignment with where we're going than where we used to be. Now, when you do that, you're going to have some people that's going to miss the old you. They're going to count on that energy. Oh, I know Tina's coming in the room. Nikki's going to let her have it. And they're entertained by your chaos because they can count on it, because somewhere it makes them feel a little bit better. That's why some of us lean into a lot of reality shows. We see chaos and it makes us feel a little bit better about our lives. But on the flip side, unconsciously, we start mimicking the things that we see and we don't even realize it. Just a word of caution. But when we put these elements together, now we're starting to really accelerate. So it gives power to your affirmation. And today, our affirmation, for the sake of this podcast, is what you have is valuable. It's valuable. And you don't have to wait for somebody else to tell you you have value. You have to know it authentically. And you have to create habits around what you have in order to not only preserve it, but to grow it. You've got to grow what you have because the things we have do diminish, right? So we've got to be in a growing state. When we commit at this level, the way you speak will change, how you carry yourself will change, and you will open the door for people to lean in to who you are authentically. And you do have some, you have some hiccups where it's not going to be perfect every day. But even if you make a mistake, forgive yourself first off. If you make a mistake, forgive yourself and lock back into your affirmation. Lock back into the gratitude for what you have. And it's so important to do this on a regular basis. Now, this isn't a magic pill to do once and woo, everything is fine. It takes commitment to walk this path. But let me tell you, there are already people on the journey. If you so find the courage to do it, there's already people that are ahead of you and behind you who are on the journey that you have a choice to be on, a decision, right? And if you choose to make that decision, there's somebody else behind you that is looking for the courage to do it too. So that is the opportunity for today. It's what am I going to lean into? I start with the gratitude. 3 things I'm grateful for. I want you to couple those things together. And when you couple them together, you find another power that you didn't even realize that you had. You link that with your positive affirmation of what better looks like. And then you start walking in that. And things will start gravitating to you. Now, full transparency, there are probably, if you have a genuine interest in something, there are probably things that are gravitating to you that you've been rejecting all along. I have a client. I'm gonna tell this story. I wasn't sure I was gonna tell it, but we here, so let's go. You know, I'm leaning in and being honest. And every time I have a client story, the client is always anonymous. I had a client that said, Nikki, I don't want to be CEO of the company. Obviously, I want to, keep growing in my career and keep doing all the things. I don't want to be CEO. What I really want, my deep personal desire, is to have a partner and to have a family. That is what I really, really want. What made her have a moment of clarity like that? Because she stopped me mid-sentence. And she said, this is really what I want. So she had a goal, right? And she needed affirmations. As your coach, I give affirmations according to the goal to help lean into these things. This is how we reach our goals. But she needed to value what she already had. So that means we had to take inventory. She was already dating someone. That relationship was going sour. And quite frustrated with that relationship and where it was going, I came back to our affirmation. I said, what the goal that you have is honorable. The goal that you have is very likely meant for you because you've had it so very long. And when you articulated it to me, I could hear the trembling in your voice, so I knew it was authentic. And so we leaned into that. But you have to appreciate what you have. The gentleman that she was trying to date, that she was dating, was asking her to be something other than what she was naturally. And it was friction. And so she didn't feel like herself. But the moment we could get her to be her authentic self, all of a sudden, she finds love. She finds love with someone who was already within her community of friends and contacts. It was somebody she already knew. But because she couldn't value what she already had in that friendship, she never saw it for anything more than a friendship. But as we start taking inventory of the person that was constantly showing up, you didn't need makeup, you didn't need to put on any airs, you didn't have to be anything else, you didn't have to laugh at corny jokes, you didn't have to do things that were outside your values. I started to hear the pattern that this person was constantly showing up for her. He was always there. He was there when she dated Mr. Wrong. And Mr. Right sometimes will just watch you make these mistakes because they know you can't hear them because you don't value what you already have in their friendship. So he waited and he waited. And after kind of hearing his name come up over and over again, we started to say, who is this person? Because they seem to be right by your side through thick and thin. Long story short, they started officially dating, and they had a baby girl, and they are life partners. Because finally, she stopped chasing what she thought she was supposed to have and start really taking inventory of what she already had. And because of that, along with the affirmations, along with the clarity, along with pausing for a moment, it finally came together for her as something that was hers all along, right? She was actually attracting what she needed, but she thought she wanted something else. So this is just one of many examples I can give you about the mental mindset shift that a person can make, find alignment by identifying who they are, what they've been through, learning the lessons, being grateful for the challenge. We had a conversation, this client and I had a conversation not that long ago, and we said, we're grateful for Mr. Wrong, because sometimes you don't know what right looks like until you see wrong. Now she's in a great relationship. And so, it could be a relationship. It could be, a job. Sometimes that wrong job sets you up for the right job. When you start appreciating what you have inside you. Now, we're going to continue to develop the things that are in you. That is extremely important, right? Developing you is important, but no one else can develop you but you. Not that people can't share knowledge with you. You have to show up for that. You have to find the gratitude in the journey before anybody will pour anything more into you, because very likely you will squander what they give you. And that's real talk. And I'm not just talking as a coach. I'm talking about as a person who has lived a little too. You have to appreciate what's in front of you, capitalize on those things before more comes through the door. Because if you get more and you can't manage what we have now, then the rest will be wasted. So the way we attract what we really want, A, with gratitude. B, consistent, small affirmations. Be careful how you speak to yourself. Be careful what you tell yourself. Be careful what you tell other people about you. Because sometimes we will diminish ourselves to other people because in our hearts, we think they're already diminishing us too. So those affirmations are very, very important. Very important that we lean into that. So this is another component of the foundations of coaching. Gratitude, affirmations, and really getting on a path that really feeds your authentic goals. If you take an assessment of what you need and you will start attracting what you need, abundance will come right behind it. You will get things that you weren't even asking for, simply because you are so honestly present with yourself. You are so centered within yourself that you can see the opportunity that distracted you would have let fall to the ground, or you would have walked over. Just like my client and the friend who had a crush on her for the longest time, never said anything. She bypassed that, right? Because if you're not appreciative of what you have, you can't see it. So respectfully, it's not about so much of attracting. It's about being able to have the vision to be able to see what's likely so close to you. Your answers are so close to you. You probably don't even see them around you. But the gratitude and affirmations will help you get there. I'm so glad that y'all joined me today. I'm so glad that we're on this journey together, and I invite you to come back, invite somebody else, leave a comment in the box. We will have links if you need resources and tools to help with the affirmation. I do have a set of affirmation cards, 30 days of positive affirmations, mantras that you can share with yourself. Matter of fact, I have them on my desk. I keep them here. These little lovelies, look, y'all, I was at an event and my daughter was working the table. She actually told the lady thought maybe these were a business card, I guess. And she told him, oh no, that's a part of a set, and the lady took two of the cards and left. And we kind of laughed about it because it just draws you in. Because sometimes things in your life and your mindset may be so clouded that it's hard to come up with just one affirmation for yourself a day. And that totally is a cry for a little bit more self-care. So we have resources like these. They're beautiful, they're cute, they're soft touch, they are wonderful. So you can try this. You can try our journals. We have that all available for you. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you again in a week with another episode of the Lemonade Mindset.